Good morning, puppy cats. It is Butterfly. How are you? I'm going to do a brief altar tour. I had a previous altar tour when I was just kind of changing things chaotically and just in the middle of cleaning everything. And I said I was going to follow up once the dust is settled and once, basically the room has changed quite a bit. Well, that time has come, and yet I'm still not entirely settled with the rest of the room, but I am going to give you an altar tour. This morning I was doing a bit of just my morning routine, which I find really starts my day very well, and I've come to kind of really over the years find that if I do a morning, something, a spiritual sort of a ritual, a meditation, a routine, and also evening, it really starts the day well, it sets the tone for the day, and it also ends the day very well, and I sleep better because it gears me, in the morning it gears me up, and like I say, sets the tone, and in the evening I get a release, it's a catalyst, so I can let it all go, and then I don't have to mull over things in the evening. So it's kind of like a daily detox, and in the morning I do some programming, so yeah, and I do it all here. I do it all here, really, mostly. There are some other things that I do throughout the day as well, and I think that that's part of what I like about being pagan is that I introduce my spirituality throughout the day, and a lot of times it's not even really noticeable to other people, I think, or they don't know the reasons why I'm doing things. Is kind of like integrating the elements in my belief systems into what I think are good things for other people and random acts of kindness and that sort of stuff. So that's the programming that I set, and I kind of reset my clock every day, twice a day, or at least once a day, depending on the schedule. Sometimes I really am tired and I just omit one of those things, the morning or the evening devotional. So anyway, this is my workstation. My altar is my workstation. I should also mention that in my early days, my early kind of 20s, when I was discovering a different kind of spirituality other than Catholicism, which was the paganism that I was learning in the early 90s, I did not have an altar. I was buying crystals, and I was buying different things, and I was learning things, and I was reading books, and getting into it, learning more. And I did not associate having a altar as something that was possible for me. I never even considered it, despite the fact that I was reading books like, on Wicca, and they all have an altar set up. For me, having been brought up Catholic, for me, and you'll see this in the old sort of books on Wicca, is that it looks like an altar is something that the representative of the evening, the priest or priestess, has, as a place to sort of display the ritual that's being done. And we, the people, are, in Catholicism, the people are in the pews kind of watching the stage. And with Wicca, it is more like around a circle, but the altar is kind of like center stage. And even though people may participate in different things, I for whatever mental block I had from previous learning, I'd never really brought the altar into my home. It was just not something I even considered. And it's through the magic of YouTube where I got to learn that other people did really wonderful things like this, that I got over that hump. I got over that. And so it's really evolved over time. And now this is basically my spiritual workstation. This is where I set the vibe for who I am and what I want out of my life, which is the seat of magic for me. I guess what I can also add is that I am one of the two jobs that I do in my muggle life is that I work with young people. I work with an early childhood educator. That is one of the two jobs that I have. And I've been doing that for probably about 14 years. in variety of different capacities. In that, I've taken some of the things that I've learned there into my spiritual practice. And what that means is in my spiritual workstation, which is my altar, I compartmentalize different activities. So, like if you can imagine, in a daycare, you would go and you'd have the literacy station where you go and you read materials, and you put a little cozy area where children will come and feel invited to read. And you can make a little nook with a nice roof over top, or you can put special little lights and cozy cushions and put the books there on display so that they're ready to be read, and that there's a position that's ready for you, so that you can just sit there, and that's your literacy station. And you may have some associated props there in that station, like building blocks with letters or manipulatives that kids can handle and associate with literacy, depending on their age and their stage of development. And you'll have different workstations that are like that for math and science and art. And you'll have all those art stations that are available with all the props ready on display so that they can just grab the paintbrush and go to it, right? That, my dear friends, is how I set up my spiritual workstation. Which is why it takes an entire room with a lot of boxes. So I will mention some of the things that are around, but they're not all right within the camera lens, right? Okay. So, like for instance, if I'm coming here for a general devotion or for manifesting magic or for my morning and evening rituals, I will come here. Now I'll show you to the left. I have the basic. I tried to change the setup, but quite frankly, these are my creature comforts, and I like what I like, and it works for me. So the room, it works better if my altar now is facing the south. So yeah, my altar at times has been north facing. It was east facing, which was my preference for a long, long time. But right now it is south facing. And so this way is south, which means that my crystal grid is not properly placed because I like my south to face south. Anyway, this is my light. See, that's my crystal grid where I sort of colored stuff from an adult coloring book, and I use this as my crystal grid. Anyway, this is my light because in the evening when I come, I will light candles, and I don't like feeling like I'm working in blinding conditions. So instead of ripping out my eyeballs, I have this night light here that is not quite as bright as the other lamps that I have, or the overhead light that's on the ceiling. So some of the things that you can see here, I have a box with some special items in there. Sometimes I will have a working that I'll put in there. This has been with me like forever and a day. I don't even remember where I got it. Probably some craft shop. I think it's made in India. Yep. Made in India. I think in another life I have lived there and come from there. Anyway, this I bought in Thunder Bay. It was one of the first tools. These are called harmony balls, and they have dragons on them. And so sometimes in meditation, I will roll these, or sometimes just hold them one in each hand, and the sound becomes quite meditative. This was also something that I bought in my early days. It's my very first pendulum. Actually, yeah, it's my first pendulum. Let's not elaborate. But this is a crystal quartz, rose quartz. And I keep those two together. So I bought that in 1992, I believe, or 91. This is something that I got later on in life. It's a special box from the box store with the box that this came in. but it stays in here. Why? Because I have cats and sometimes they get in my room, and there's no way that my crystal ball is going to be tossed over. So yeah, this is my crystal ball, but it is not crystal. This is blown glass, and it works like a lens, and everything that you put on the back is upside down, which is pretty trippy when I'm doing some work. And I like that. I'll put like an oracle card in the back or a tarot card and kind of get a different perspective on things. This is an image. I have tons of images that I really quite like. It looks like me and my girls, right? So I relate to that picture. I like that period of time with the dress that they have. I have some dragons here. So I just saw these and I was really attracted to them, and I bought them separately at different times. This one would be the female energy, not because there's fire, but because this dragon is a receptacle. Basically, it's a glass for drinking. I don't ever kind of drink it like this because it doesn't stick. And you may wonder what this ribbon in it is. It's just a long ribbon that you would get. That is part of a spell that I did. So in getting to know me, there's some really fun stuff that I do. So from a psychological perspective, what I did is I kind of put a person, which for me was a long tapeworm, and he was parasitic for me for several years. And I did a spell working just this past December. Now, I believe it was Friday the 13th in December, and I wanted the end of the working to be Friday the 13th, I believe, in March. I'd have to go back and check those dates. So I worked the moon sort of phases into that spell working, and I put him as a parasitic tapeworm in this dragon cup. And I compartmentalized him so he would stop infiltrating, and bringing damage into my life, and just sort of find solace and find peace and love for himself, and just stop being so hateful towards me. So, it seems to have worked. By the end of December, which was possibly 2 weeks after, there were some significant changes that I hadn't seen in years. And we are now in the, middle of June or something. And the 13th of June. Oddly enough, I'm mentioning the 13th. Anyway, I'm not touching this. I was going to bury it or burn it or whatever as a continuation, but he's right where he should be, and things are peaceful right now. So that's just staying right there, and it's on the left side of my altar because it's in the past. That's my past. So, this here is a bell. I find it quite large, and so I use that sometimes for cleansing the air. But I have some other fun stuff that I'm preferring to work with. But it stays there, so it's kind of in the background. I have my Buddha here, which I use. He's not front and center right now because I'm doing other stuff. This wooden sort of posable person takes on, a lot of sort of Gestalt energy for me when I'm doing different working. Sometimes my posable person is a female, sometimes it's a male, sometimes it's myself, sometimes it's just a lot of different things. So I need to speak to somebody. I feel like, I can do some working with that. So some people do poppets, and sometimes I do make poppets, but I just find that this thing is just readily available, and I don't have to go through any extra procedures. It's just available and really takes on any identity that I want. So here's some angels, and they were given to me by people. This is a special oil that I have. So I have all the goodies. They're all kind of hanging out. Oh, and I have two wands, which are some, I don't have one in particular. I have one that's actually helping my laptop to stay propped up so that it doesn't come crashing down. Okay, so here we are. Maybe I'll just give you a little peekaboo down below. A lot of what I do as workings involves crystals, at times. So I have my stacks of crystals, or quite a few of these containers. And in here are art supplies. So that's what I mean by having things available at the ready. This is just one thing in the room, and art can mean like anything from stamps to stickers to glitter to pretty little pieces of paper to, I mean, you name it. And of course in here I have peacock feathers, which I have not brought myself yet to use. It's been with me for quite a long time. And then just a variety of feathers that I find along the way. And, you know, yeah, the feathers that I've collected over time there's just a lot. Oh, hello, my little friends. These are carnelian and some different red. Oh, I remember I was doing some chakra work, so all my red sacral crystals came out. And this is, these are herbs that are tied in a sachet inside with some crystals for, oh, this is one of the amethysts that I bought once upon a time. And I think this is the very first crystal I ever received from Dr. Trudy. Dr. Trudy is the doctor in Thunder Bay who introduced me to a lot of really, working with energy systems, because she does it in her practice. So yeah, so this bag is like a mojo bag. There's a lot of different names for it. So that is a working that I had. I'm going to put that in here actually. That's kind of, I'm going to deal with that in just a little bit after I'm done the video. What else do we have in here? Yeah, so these are some stones that I have. I love orange calcite, and so of course you have the cards to go with them. And this one is quartz green gold, or lemon quartz, the green one. This is the only one of this kind that I have. It's just lovely. So they don't fit in those little containers that I have down below because they're much larger. I put them in here. And of course the feathers can never stay out, because when the cats poke into my room, then things happen and I get upset. So we don't want that. So that's one side. Oh yeah, and of course the doll. I think I've mentioned the doll before. My lovely doll back there. I've mentioned that in a previous altar tour. She's for some inner child work because she's a doll from my childhood. So let's start from up to down over here on my middle section. My middle section, oh, if you just wondered, these two things on the side, that's just like holders for candles. So over on this side, this is kind of like a makeshift sort of nesting table thing that I got going. So it's kind of a space saver, where it goes in and then it kind of pulls right out. It pulls out partially, or if I don't have a lot of stuff around me right here, right now, I pull it right out, which is very helpful because then I have a clean, flat surface without anything on it that is ready for my great big book of shadows, my journal. So it helps me. I can open it up here. I got my light there. I can read. I can have my props up here, and it's just really functional and ready to use. I don't have to start setting up every time I come. This is naturally standard, right? The tarot deck, which is probably the one that I use the most over years, bar none. And I have a couple of those very same decks, because just because. These, we've been given some chocolate bunnies, and they came with little bell around their neck, and I thought bells for clearing would be quite nice, clearing energy. So I brought them, and I'm going to do some sort of, I'm not going to keep them in this kind of position. So I'm leaving it here so I can get some inspiration, because just tying them all on one chain just doesn't seem as creative as I want. So if anybody has any ideas about how I can put these together in some pretty way to make a bell, I'm waiting for some inspiration. Over on this side, I should maybe show you as well. I won't turn the camera because that's going to be a heck of a lot of work. But I also have a lot of Buddha. Buddha here is a wind chime. So that's on the left for me. My left. Up here, my goodness, how can I begin? So I have my 2 candles. I had them this morning. They've hardened back now. These have been with me forever and a day. These are logs that come from the yard that were sawn. And my daughters are, well, one daughter was starting to do my moon and my sun, but stopped. So now she wants me to ask my other daughter. So I've switched my hemispheres here to be more commensurate with my brain hemispheres. So now black and female and receptive and future and creative is on my right, and white and light male sort of energies are on my left, which works better for me because now, not only did that make sense before I changed the placement of my altar, but now that I'm south-facing, my west is actually facing west, and my light, which is kind of an east thing, is facing east. So it just works for me. Some stones, some candles that have been, you need fun props, right? Sometimes it gets hot in here. It's getting hot in here. All right, my loves. Can I get you a little closer? I don't know. I don't have this in. I don't want to get this too long either. So I have my pyramid. That's essential. That's front and center. 4 elements and the spirit on top. I should mention, I was going to make a separate video at some point, but I want to make separate videos on absolutely everything, and time is of the essence. So I'll just mention it here. Identifying as a witch has always been a question and a challenge, and am I not? Do people approve of the word? And it comes down to what I think of myself and what people will think if I tell them. That's the insecurity that I deal with at the end of it all. I definitely have no problem saying I'm a pagan who practices witchcraft. Absolutely. If you practice witchcraft, you're a witch, right? So that's what that is. But also kind of how I lived with that, sort of. I just kind of, I'm a witch. Kept it to myself. And that was part of that point of the pyramid, to be silent. Some things you want to keep to yourself in private, right? So that was always something that I just kind of kept to myself. And it just felt safer to the general public to go out and say I'm a pagan. And not even say that I do witchcraft, right? But people have evolved. Life has evolved. Now I have a YouTube channel. It's kind of obvious. Cat's out of the bag. Probably, I don't think cats should even be in bags, but you know what I'm saying? This proverbial broom closet. Yeah. So that's why, that's the whole thing. And old habits die hard. So, yeah. If there's ever been any questions to how I identify to people who are viewing, that's the whole thing. My whole thing about being, who I am, it has always been a point where it was to be silent. That was my point. That was my power. I just keep that to myself. And whether or not somebody would approve or not, I just stopped struggling with it because it didn't matter. Right? It was my business and no one else's. Now I have a YouTube channel, so ta-da! Yeah. So I'm going to make a separate video. Actually, there's not anytime soon though, because life is getting busy. And I just can't bring myself to do it immediately. I just can't. I don't know. It's a block. Okay. So here I've decorated my altar with. These are from an aquarium. We had fish at one time. I use what I have. I live within my budget. I don't go out of my way to get, except for books and cards. I spend money on that. But I try and use what I have. This was a gift to me from my childhood priest. And so that praying hands is meaningful to me. And you can see what's here. This I found just a few weeks ago. This is a robin's egg, if you can see, and a little robin. I don't know if you can see it really nicely. Robin's egg. Oh, there you go. And in the very tip, you can see where the robin poked their beak at the tip and then cracked all the way around the circumference. It's beautiful blue. Anyway, so I taped that and I kept it in the medicine cup and brought that home. This sort of setup is make it myself here. These were given to my daughters as worry dolls. I trust that at some point they're going to come to me with worries. So these were given to them by my sister and given back to me because my one daughter just decided she wanted to clean her room, which she does periodically, and I often will keep things, and then when she decides that she needs something later, I'll bring it back to her. So until then, they're staying on my altar because I'm putting all kinds of positive vibes in there, and then when she wants to have them back, or when I want to comfort her or console her one day, I'll be able to offer some worry dolls where you hold them and your worry goes in there, right? You get rid of them and do some kind of ritual to sort of really, bring it into reality. It's just not just in your mind. You're gathering that energy, and then you have something that carries it, a symbolic, manipulative that can carry you can visualize better the energy going away, or your worries going away. This I've had for a long time and have never gotten rid of. These are two little fairies on a swing, and of course they remind me of my two girls. So that goes here. What altar is complete without a copy of the Paper Bag Princess? I really don't know. I can't even. So I have different props here. So south facing is, I have a dragon for fire, of course. I also thought this was kind of cute for home and hearth and fire. So I put a lot of, energy into my home. What are you doing here, you little critter? Get back over here. For my daughter had this somehow, and she got rid of it, so I took it. She may want it back one day, but it's a little snail in a cute little bottle. So that's on my west for water. This is also a little shell I picked up along the way. Not really a shell. It's a glass sort of imitation of a shell. And it's blue, so that's perfect. Indigenous colors here of Canada, so they often are in my prayers, and copper, a little copper pot. So I got this when I attended a ritual, and it's handmade. So when I am praying for the water and for the health and wellness of our lakes and waters and streams, so that we have potable water, and so there's a lot of prayer I do for water and the health of it because it feeds us all worldwide. So that definitely stays here as well. This chain, I'm going to have to get a different chain because this is my dolphin. Now, not only is she here in the west, but she's also part of something else. So I'm just going to talk to you about that as well in a moment. This is my north facing. So of course here I have little critters. My little bobblehead, because ladybugs are said to, when they alight on you, are said to bring you luck, which is witchcraft that is sort of set in our culture, right? You make a wish when a ladybug alights on you, and then it flies away, and then you get your wish. That's part of our culture. Who doesn't do that? It's like making a wish when you blow a candle, or making a wish on a star. These things are part of common lore. So yeah, it's a nice reminder of how what I do spiritually is based in our collective conscious, our reality, right? And this as well is earth. So this is a mushroom that for me is symbolic of earth. Now you see a lot of these things have chains or small bracelets that have been attached to them because quite often what I'll do, depending on what I'm doing, I will make the symbol of the pentacle, not the pentagram. Sorry, pentagram, not the pentacle. The pentacle has a circle around it. So that would have a different symbology for me. The pentagram I will do with these chains, depending on what the pendulum is at the end. So here in the east, I have my two fairies. I have another fairy, which is actually a pin. So sometimes when I'll do a working, I'll put the pin on my clothing, and then I carry my angel with me. My sister gave me that, because she's just all that in a cup of tea, literally. And here is a bird pendant. So that also I will use as a pendulum in my working. I've also mentioned, of course, you need to have a snuffer and, whoops, got a feather. I have little things that, kind of creep up on me, so I don't know if I'm going to miss a few things. These 4 things are actually pretty important because as I'm beginning and sometimes as I'm ending my routine, I will take these and I will, like I say, do my pentagram. I have to think twice, right? So here's my dolphin, so that I have pure, unadulterated joy throughout my day as I'm programming my day. Okay, so that is part of my morning prayer. This is the evil eye, to watch off and ward off, all those evil spirits. I don't even know what ward off really. What is there like an action to that verb? Anyway, it protects me, but I have enough of a mouth on me that sometimes I've learned to protect myself, but I still like my little friend here. So I do the pentagram there. Secondly. Thirdly, this is probably a Christmas prop I think I got tied onto a gift at some point, probably from my sister as well, because she got these cute little darling things. Anyways, so it's a key. So of course, to unlock all the barriers that are set before me, all of the obstacles, so that I can overcome and find the strength within me, or the key to to solve a problem. So that, and I'll do the pentagram with that. And the fourth thing is to have the wisdom, and this is my Merlin. The wisdom I need, again, to solve problems or to work some magic in my day. Sometimes with more subtle energies, so that maybe people wouldn't notice that I'm doing a little bibbidi bobbidi boo, but I'm sending some positive vibes their way and doing it with all the wisdom. All the wisdom I can muster. So yeah, these candles go on top of here. I have my Mother Mary here, who, sister, I personally don't believe that she was a virgin, and she probably doesn't need to be. But that's just me. My fairies and my friend the Heffalump. Sometimes I put stuff on there, and she's been here for a long time. I don't really have a Ganesha, but sometimes I like to think that she's my Ganesh. Ganesha. So, and this was, I bought this from somebody. There's a story to this. I got it through Kijiji, and I got it from an older lady who made meals for her family. When I went to buy it from her, I liked it, right? But she told me that she really, she's getting older and she's trying to, get rid of the things that are in her house, and it makes, she's very sad to get rid of this because she doesn't think anybody is going to, enjoy it as much or revere it as much or work with it as much. I'm not finding the right word. Anyways, that she did. This was at the center piece of her table at every time that she had a family gathering. So I picture her with, and I don't forget the number of children that she had, but she had a number of children, and then they got married, they brought children. So there was always a lot of people, and a lot of love, a lot of meal eating around this piece. And none of her children wanted it, which completely broke her heart. and which just made me want it more because I will definitely welcome it and give it a place center stage. So it's been in my home ever since, and now it's on my altar. So it's getting the attention that she intended for it to have, and I love it. And here's the fun part of it, right? It doesn't have any little, you'd think it's got a wick or something, but no, it's a candle holder. It's a taper candle holder. And what I like about it is that because of the placement of everything, the candle itself cannot fall over, which is important to me. It's always one of my concerns working with tapers. So everything that's here is here for a reason, you know? It's all fraught with meaning. Down here, I can give a little bit of a bibbidi-boo. This is another part of my workstation. So I have my cushion here, and of course my cushion has a towel over it because the cats come and then put fur all over my cushion, and it's black. So the towel is just to make it look like I live in the hood, you know? Okay. And to protect it from fur. So I always have like a number of different decks. First of all, on the lower part of this table, I have an assortment of candles and my container of essential oils back here. So different colored candles. And as far as candle color on my altar and what I use, sometimes it matters, and quite often I just like color. And as long as I have the flame, you know, I don't just limit myself to white to be generic, and I don't exclude other colors because I just use what I have, and I quite like that. So yeah, this is a deck that I have, The Journey Within. It's kind of what I've been working with this week. These are a series of little card holders for business cards, and so I will set my cards there. I have an assortment of seashells, like quite a lot of them, because my daughter really liked having beach theme in her room, and now she doesn't, so now I have a bunch of seashells everywhere. So yeah, this is the most recent one that I got. I'm going to do a unboxing or flip through on that. And of course, some books. Whatever I happen to be working on and journaling is always close by. My cup of tea, because when I'm talking to deity, we sit down and have a good tongue wag, and the tea is part of the communing with the spirit, I guess. It just kind of keeps me here. It's comforting for me. It's grounding. It's nourishing. It's calming, soothing. This is solely for card readings for me. So this is my process, either on a daily basis or whatever I'm doing with reading cards. It's always going in a book here. This is a book that I'm flipping through. I'm just starting to kind of work with this one. Usually I just kind of do with the cards, but this is a book that kind of works with the deck and the Buddhism cards. So that seems to be what I'm focusing on right now, but every once in a while I'll switch it up and get a different flavor altogether. By the way, this is the card I drew earlier, and it's for, this deck is really good for shadow work, the Dark Mirror, but, the book describes the flies as feeding on blood. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. Do they really? Whatever. Daily, quite like this book has been read and reread like every time. It's got like scribbles in it and little notes on the side, and I just love this. And I've just recently been meaning to do it for years. I've ordered the Pagan Prayer Book, and now on pre-order is available the Pagan Book of Ritual, or Pagan Ritual Book. So I'm looking forward to starting to work with the Pagan Prayer Book, but this is what I've been using mostly over years, but not exclusively, of course. So that's always there to start the day. And I do a lot of reading. Sometimes I just want to have like activity centers where I'm either working with crystals, or I'm working with art, or I'm working with incense, or I'm working with like dolls and figurines. And sometimes so it's different kind of groupings of activities. Sometimes I'm working with the activities with tarot cards or oracle cards. Sometimes the activity that I'm doing is with coloring, like when I'm making my crystal grid. So it's like a daycare, sort of, like I say, like different various workstations that I have that are set up all within here, and there's a different activity that I do kind of every time I come. And that's just the way I like to set it up. This, for people who are interested in having some kind of an idea while I'm here, is, of course, you can never have enough cloths and scarves. I have a number of these that I use, and it's an old cutlery box made of wood, and what I did is I got it from a thrift store, and I gutted all of the, the stuff inside that you have to sort of place the spoons in this sort of section, and the forks in this section. So it's all for your cutlery, your utensils. And what I have instead is some supplies. So, shells for burning sage. These are not my main one. Here's my other one. Anyways, here's another shell. And this one's kind of nice too because it has a hole. Yeah, it's probably been drilled at some point. But it will let the air through the bottom so that you can burn herbs. These are more crystals. A stress ball. So that's what I say. There's just a bunch of little activity centers here. There's sometimes I'll keep nuts and seeds and oats and cereal and different things in containers, because when I go out into nature, sometimes I'm going to sit out in nature, I'll bring a small bag. I won't bring an entire representation of everything altar related. I'll bring what I want. And when I'm bringing those foods, it's an offering. Sometimes bringing water and watering at the base of a tree is kind of nice, but sometimes I get quite thirsty and I need to look at my own needs as well. So I do feed the little critters, our little forest friends, and I'll bring seeds and nuts and oats and different things for them to eat, or an apple. So there's my Tarot Muka. Let's graduate to this side of the world. Come on, you. Hello. This is something that I recently acquired. It's a star. I saw it and had to have it. I will paint it. It's one of these cardboard things from the bookstore, because what would life be without the bookstore? These are my owl friends, and this side is not as interesting. It's more like storage, but I have my singing bowls on this side. I have my incense. I have this helps me sleep. These are my Buddha, sort of my mala beads, and the smaller one that I made, sometimes I'll wear underneath my shirt and nobody has to know, and it helps me with stress, and so I'll kind of go through the beads saying a mantra. But when I sleep, I like this big one because it's dark in my room, and it's easy to find when I've gone through the beads one time, and then I go back the other way, and then by the time I've come back the other way, I'm usually asleep, and then I fall asleep and it doesn't get lost or broken in my bed. It's easy to find. Whereas I find if I had something that was really small, I don't have to concentrate as much when I'm falling asleep. I can still do the malas, like the beads, when I'm sleeping, because they're so big, right? They're just so big that it's definitely good to use when I'm falling asleep. So that's a help if you're suffering from insomnia, you know. And then, of course, I have some holy water, some blessed water. You know, I guess you can see what there is here. I am in Canada, and Florida water is available at crazy, ridiculous prices and not readily available on, you know, every street corner like I'd like to think. You know, in the States, I think they pay like maybe $6 or $10 for a bottle of Florida water, whereas if I'm in Canada, I have to pay like some $35 or something for, like, you know, a similar size bottle. And if I buy it on Amazon, I have to buy 6. I like to buy it in bulk, or if I buy it individually, it's even more expensive. So it's bananas. It's bloody bananas. So I like incense, and I used to sell Avon once upon a time, and I have like a lot of things that I like the smell of. So I use what I have, and that's it. I use what I have. Although Florida water is in fact heavenly. Yep, you're a man. Yeah, so other than that, there's just some clearing tools and more bells. And this, from Catholic days, just always stayed in here. It reminds me of a beautiful rosary that I used to have and got rid of under nasty coercion circumstances from a boyfriend that I had when I was in my early 20s, and I regretted it ever since. Anyways, I ended up finding this lovely set, and even though I don't really, I do have Catholic roots, so a lot of the props and the practices are kind of dear to me. Still, they're familiar to me more than anything else. You know, I have issues with the crucifix, with how Jesus looks like a Caucasian needle-nosed Jewish man with long hair, which doesn't seem very real. There's a whole lot of stuff I argue with transubstantiation and belief systems and stuff, so I don't think that I can really say that I follow those beliefs anymore. But I mean, my parents each had a Mother Cabrini on their dresser, and my mom gave me hers, and I also have my father's, so those images are with me, and they have just become part of what made me who I am. So there's that. And down here is just more storage. Incense. Oh, more feathers. Can never have enough feathers, you know. And now I have 2 birds, so I have a container like this that I'm collecting their parakeet feathers, which would make nice earrings, I think. This is a turkey feather that my mom got for me when she was walking. She goes once a year with her sisters to meet, and she's brought me a turkey feather back the last 2 years. More feathers. These are things, I mean, if you want to find feathers, some people, when I've talked about my feathers before, have said, oh, I wish I could find feathers. Go in the morning. Go in the morning. If you have high wires, you know, electrical wires, go on that sidewalk, because that's where they're going to be every morning. This is like walking, and every morning, or I only find 1 or 2 at a time. This is a lot of walking. This is a lot of paying attention to what's on the ground in front of me. This is a lot of just, paying attention. So, and these are seagulls, pigeons. I'm common. I am regular people. I am not aristocratic. Mind you, I do have those peacock feathers, but you notice, well, they're kind of like all like in plastic and not touched, right? So that's what you do with stuff. You keep it aside for when the queen comes to visit. Anyway, oops. I left that it fell. A set of runes, of course. Right? I mean, I can't really show you everything. This is cedar that I have, because that is a sacred medicine. So cedar that we have here. And I can't leave that laying down on my altar because when I do that, my cats attack it. And in here, there's just so many things. There's like a calendar so I can keep track of stuff. And yeah, there's just so many things. There's a lighter, some mojo bags ready to be used. This is some crystals that I bought at one time. Oh, actually, it doesn't have the same original crystals that I bought in here. This has other ones, but these are all like pendants that I bought so that you can wear a crystal, like whichever crystal that you want. And they all have like little pieces on them. So, I mean, over the years, you can really end up collecting quite a lot of stuff, right? So I had to tidy up. What else can I say? Did I mention these books down here? So we have Paganism by the Higginbothams. I think I said that. Another one that I work with a lot is The Great Work, and I can't get enough out of this. It goes through the whole cycle of the year, and you can start anywhere in this book and work your way around back from the middle to the back to the front, go back through again, because it starts from the beginning of the year and then it works to the end. So if you buy this in June, you can just work to the back of the book and then start again in the beginning. So this was written by somebody who is a psychotherapist, I believe, Tiffany Lasik, and I like the questions and the way that she asks things and the reflections that she gives, because it speaks my language. I can relate to psychology. So this, of course, right? The best way to predict the future is to create it. So, going to the back of the book, you got lines in there. This is a book of manifestation. What I want to set. This is a special calendar which has all the lunar phases and all the pagan celebrations and everything that I want to make sure that I don't forget. So, this is one that I'm reading these days. It's called The Ghost Studies. How we perceive ghosts and what is happening. Because we receive that information. So that's in here. I'll be doing a review on that one next time. And the tea leaf fortune cards, which is a different kind of deck altogether. So, I think that is it for this altar space, and for an hour, I think that's probably good. It's probably enough. I mean, I could go through other art supplies that I have as well, like these things you can get again at the bookstore, right? They are wooden circles, and at our stores they have, instead of circles, you could also buy like stars. You can buy squares or hexagons, and so that with like a burning tool, you can make runes with these. So I think I'm going to make 2 sets of runes, and possibly make some for my girls as well in various sizes. There's the witch's runes, and also like I'm going to make some videos on those too. Yeah, and of course multiple supplies of pens and markers of every kind, and crayons and stickers. And then there's that half of the room, which is a whole other thing. So I'm going to stop now because otherwise we'll be here all day. And I have to go out and mow my lawn. So, hope this finds you well. And if you want to work with me, I would really like to hear from you. I'm going to leave the contact information down below. I read tarot cards and oracle cards. I have some spreads that are available on Etsy. And I also do Esoteric Life Coaching, which is life coaching. And I've been asked what life coaching is. But I'm calling it Esoteric Life Coaching, which means that there's a spiritual spin to it if you want. It's no secret that we all kind of relate to energy, to the collective unconscious, to we are recognizing that we are a global community, and we connect to each other in ways that go beyond just tactile and proximity. But we also connect with each other on an energetic level. And so that's what I offer. And that kind of really permeates everything that anyone can do in a day. It's how you program your day, how you set your intention, how you decide what your goals are, what your values are. And basically, I have 3 types of sessions for Esoteric Life Coaching that are available on Etsy, as well as some card readings that are available on Etsy. And so that information is down below as well. So if you want to do some goal setting, you may want to work with me and do some, have some life coaching sessions that can help to achieve goals in a way that is not overtaxing. It's not about just getting it right the first time. It's about allowing yourself to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or 3 steps back and 1 step forward, and kind of getting there when you get there, because taking steps back don't necessarily mean that you're not getting ahead, really, when you're talking about life. It's about enjoying the process and learning the lessons that you need to learn along the way, because we have to enjoy the journey. And that's how I approach my work as a life coach. So I hope this finds you well, and that you have a really great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.